So we live in a world right now where social media is everything education. We're talking about people calling YouTube university. You know what I'm saying? You go on TikTok. I think people barely even go on Google Chrome anymore.
Absolutely, yeah.
For anything.
Yeah.
So where do you think the future of education is standing in our current society?
Schooling has a specific agenda that they want you to have specific things that they want you to get out from school, right? Like there's a whole bunch of benchmarks that they want you to meet. There's a whole bunch of requirements that they want you to meet. That's why they give you the regents and things like that, right? Like I think one of the things that they should equip you with that I think schools don't equip you with is that critical thinking skills to kind of like question what's going on in this society.
You can't be a slave to technology. Technology 100%. Has to be a slave to you. You have to make use of it to better or enhance what it is that you already have going on.
Absolutely.
I can't teach this classroom and manage these disruptive kids and try to reach the kid that's so far behind that can't even read out loud.
It is a lot.
You know what I mean?
And we're not trained for that.
It's overwhelming. It's a lot, and you don't even get paid enough for this.
No, we don't.
Okay? And the kids that are failing in your classroom, you're being looked at and reprimanded in terms of like, well, what are you doing in the classroom?
Exactly.
Why are the kids not getting it?
Facts.
Weed them out.
Welcome everybody. My name is Caleb and I am here with
Bianca.
Yes, welcome you to another episode of EP27 podcast, and I'm so happy that you guys are here. But today, man, I got questions that need answers. You guys know they're taking away regions. Grades are at an all-time low. Kids can't read.
Kids can't read.
Feel me? Student debt is at 1.73 trillion.
Let's really talk about it.
And I'm not paying for my loans.
I second that.
My president said I was forgiven.
They're getting rid of the Department of Education too.
Yeah. We gonna talk about it, man. But look,
can you afford private school?
Yikes. Homeschool? Maybe.
Charter?
We're gonna see though, man. But look, we got a teacher here, we got a person here, and he's gonna be able to answer a lot of these questions. Please, everybody, welcome Q. But a lot of you know him as Q. But today we're gonna respect him. You feel me? Welcome Clinton to the studio, man.
Hey, it was good.
Clinton.
Oh, man, how you feeling, man? How you feeling?
I'm good. I can't complain. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course,
For
of course. Listen, we're about to dive into it, but real quick, just give us a quick background: who you are, what you do, how long you've been teaching, the credentials, everything, so the people know.
Yeah, like you valid, you know, certified. You're really that guy.
Yeah,
I got you. My name is Clinton Ikiota. I graduated undergrad from Cornell University. I did a bachelor's degree in biology and society.
Shout outs to Cornell.
I got my master's from Columbia University.
Okay, Ivy League.
You feel me?
Okay, Ivy League.
And I currently am pursuing my PhD at City University of New York in urban education. I've been teaching this is my 6th year in the classroom.
Come on now.
Being a teacher. So I've been teaching since 2019. So ever since I got out of college. It's pretty much, that's what there is about me. I'm Nigerian. You know what I'm saying?
Niger in the house.
For everybody that know me, you know, I love to dance Haitian compa. I love compa. Like, y'all, man, I feel it in my soul. Y'all really understand.
The Nigerians love the Haitians.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I'm excited to be here, man. Thank you so much, Caleb, for having me here. I really do appreciate it.
Of course. But beautiful. All right, well, y'all heard the stats, y'all heard the credentials. Feel me? Now let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Boom, you ready?
Oh, I'm here. I'm locked in. I'm seeing.
Let's go.
Let's see. Let's talk about it.
So, first thing I want to hear that you, right? So we live in a world right now where social media is everything education. We're talking about people calling YouTube university. You know what I'm saying? You can go on TikTok. I think people barely even go on Google Chrome anymore.
Absolutely, yeah.
For anything.
Yeah.
So
no, we go on Google for what's not on TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's true. So you're in the education space. With all this extra information out there, where do you think the future of education is standing in our current society?
So it's so funny you mentioned that, right? Like, I think social media is like a blessing and also a curse kind of thing. It's a very interesting. I'm very conflicted on the two, right? So like, social media, I think, brings a lot of issues that they don't really like teach you in the school. Like, I think about schooling and I'm like, they have a set curriculum, they have a set like standards, you have set messages that you want students to come out with, right? But then I think social media kind of points out sometimes some inconsistencies in what they teach you in school and also points out some of the things that they don't want to teach you. So I'll give you an example, right? Like, You know what I'm saying? Like they tell you like Christopher Columbus discovering America, right? That's kind of like what they tell you in school. But then like, I think it was social media. For me personally, that was like, actually like this man committed a genocide. Like he came to the Americas and like killed a whole bunch of people that was already living here. I think another thing that's powerful is like, even the stuff that's going on when between Israel and Palestine, right? Like I think social media has highlighted those issues very, very well.
Yeah.
And if it hasn't necessarily taught people about it, it's actually made people like go research about it and know about it. You know what I'm saying? So I think in those cases, social media becomes powerful. It becomes like a powerful information tool. But then people put a lot of really, really dumb things on social media sometimes, right? Some people put things that are not true. So you can't necessarily take everything that is said on social media as fact, you know? So it's like, it's a double-edged sword. And I think like for the future, I think it's not going to go away, right? Like people are still going to use social media as an educational outlet. I think the challenge is like, how do we make sure that we're using it the right way, right? How do we make sure that we're using it not as like facts, but you're using it to say like, I want to learn more about this topic, right? Or I want to, because you still like, it's not going to give you everything about a specific topic or a specific like issue. You need to be able to like do that research yourself kind of thing. So that's where I think like it becomes a little tense.
Okay.
Here's what I'm going to say. I'm finding it, you know? You know, TikTok, they be like, find it.
Find it.
Okay. So here's what I'll say. I think that I love that everyone is on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram, and sharing personal stories or shining light on things that are happening around the world that the media is not covering. I think that is very powerful and it gives voice to the people. However, when it comes to like education itself, like you said, like there's a lot of false information out there, like Wikipedia, anybody can put anything on there. Like that's why absolutely know your sources, fact check your sources, right?
Absolutely.
I think that I agree with you, like social media serves and internet in general, you know what I mean, serves a purpose. It connects people together. There's a lot of information out there. There's things that you can learn that are beneficial, that will heighten your education, and there's things that will put you in a rabbit hole and you will lose your mind. You know what I mean? Sometimes you Google with symptoms that you have and they tell you you're about to die.
Exactly.
So you gotta be mindful.
Exactly.
But I think it's the same thing like even in schools too, where it's like the information that you're getting, U.S. history is not really world history. It's just the history book that's written by the victor and not, so you don't get all of the information, right? But then you go to, you know, HBCUs and you get more education more on your people and different things. Or if you go to a Christian college or school, you'll get more information that is more centered in Christ and stuff like that. So I think it's about who you are and what information you're looking for, because I think in school you'll get it and outside of school you'll get it as well, because there's such a thing as information is everywhere. And it's a matter of like, how do we get the people, and I think that's where I'm alluding to is to this question, is like, how do we get people to get the right information at the right place for the right thing?
That's a very tricky question. I always like to make a distinction, right? Like there's always a difference between like schooling and education, right? So like I like to separate both. People like to use it interchangeably, but like they're two different things, right? So like schooling is an institution, right? So you go to school, it's an institution. They have a set of standards that they want you to meet. They have a set of like things they want you to know. Everything is really controlled. The narrative that they want you to leave school away with is controlled, right? But like education is everywhere, right? You can read a book and get educated. You could go to a library. You could go to a park and get educated. You can go, you know what I'm saying, look on a website, go to a museum and get educated. Like education is a lifelong process, right? So I think sometimes like people need to take ownership of their own education. And I think sometimes people put the onus on schools to do that, but like schools they only take up like, and it seems like it's a large part of your education, but it's actually a very, very small part of your education, because much of the information that you should be like being empowered by is information that you discovered like yourself, right? Like, and this is the one thing I always say about schools, like schools, what they should teach you is to teach you how to think and how to think consciously, so that when you do go like get like outside information, you're able to question and be like, oh, that doesn't sound right. Or like, yeah, this sounds like something that's true. Let me do some research on this. Or this doesn't sound right. Let me look at this other resource, right? Like this idea of like critical consciousness, right? Like questioning every single thing that you learn. So like I like to make that difference because I think that the education piece we like to put on the system and the school, but like they're in charge of like the schooling, right? And a small aspect of your education, but like the grand scheme of things, you should sort of like want to educate yourself more and like ask more questions and things like that.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that schooling's purpose is only to teach you to do critical thinking, but not to educate you for livelihood.
I think schooling has a specific agenda that they want you to have specific things that they want you to get out from like school, right? Like there's a whole bunch of benchmarks that they want you to meet. There's a whole bunch of requirements that they want you to meet. That's why they give you the regents and things like that, right? Like at the end of the 4 years, whatever years you're in high school, they're saying, all right, boom, like this is the criteria of things that you need to know. I think one of the things that they should equip you with that I think schools don't equip you with is that critical thinking skills to kind of like question what's going on in this society. I think sometimes, and people kind of argue about this, like schools in some way, shape, or form kind of like train you to be like cogs in the system, right? To be like legitimately just reproducing the same type of knowledge year after year after year after year. Sometimes they're not training you to critically think about like, wait, like this information, like just like how we talked about US history, right? Like you could go with that information. And for me specifically, I didn't know about the nuances in US history until I got to college, and they were like, all of that stuff that you learned in high school is like very sensationalized. There's things that they did not tell you about, you know what I'm saying? Like black people, they always say, well, Brown versus the Board of Education, like, made black people and white people come to school together. But that was really not even the purpose of Brown versus Board of Education, right? And like all of the racism that still occurred after Brown, like they don't tell you those things, but when you go to college, like or sometimes if you go to college or if you do the research yourself, you're like, well, like what was the realities after Brown? Like I know that I Googled that. I was like, yo, like this sounds too good to be true. Like what happened? And then you start to see like the little nuances that they don't tell you in school. So I think sometimes like people take schooling for like everything that they're supposed to know, but then there's so much out there that they don't tell you. So the charge is like, yes, they give you this information, but you should also be charged with like doing your own research and like learning more just for your own self and for like your own growth as well.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I see what you mean. Well, in that case, then, so from what I guess I'm just restating what you said.
Yeah.
So schooling is just basically foundational things that they want you to know.
Absolutely.
And then education should be what you need to know for yourself.
And like schooling is a part, you know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of weird. Like schooling is a part of education, but it's not like education in and of itself, right?
Yeah,
because like there are so many different facets to education.
I got you.
I think I like to say that everyone is a life learner.
Absolutely.
So I think like maybe people can get lost in the education and schooling portion because they're like, schooling is educating. That's why we call you educators, to educate the youth as they grow older. So like the wording can kind of get lost in translation. So I think like an easier way for people to really understand or digest what it is that you're saying is that like we're lifelong learners.
Absolutely.
And you can gauge information from every single place.
Absolutely.
But just to critically think about what it is that you are asking and what you are receiving.
Absolutely.
And fact checking and trying to dive deeper to some form of understanding.
Absolutely.
And that like I'm pretty sure that you agree that, you know, schooling and the institution of school serves its purpose. That's why you're still an educator.
Absolutely.
Someone who's worked in the school system for years as well. So it serves its purpose. And I think that the one thing I will say, though, is that although it is a sugar-coated version of history from the Victor that we are teaching kids, do we want our kids to know the gruesome truth from early? Here's the question.
That is a good question.
Yes.
Do we? I'm asking because I think about it and I'm like, I don't know how to deliver the realities of America to a child learning U.S. history in elementary school.
It gets tricky, but I don't think we should not do it. Like, I don't think the way that we're going about the way we're going about it is, in my opinion, intentionally sensationalizing like the material and not necessarily like the thing is about like teaching students to question. So even if I'm not necessarily telling you, but like I want you to go away with this lesson, like saying like, yo, like, what is some other questions that I have about this? Like, or like, damn, like, can I literally go on Google and like legitimately like research like this specific topic. Now, I'm not saying that in the 4th grade they should be telling you about the gruesome like
that's what
histories.
I'm saying.
You know what I mean?
What grade do you teach? I should ask
teach high
before
school.
I say that.
So,
Okay,
my
so then
perspective
your
is
perspectives
very
are different.
Exactly.
So
my perspective is very different.
okay, so I've been in classrooms of elementary, middle, high school, right? And I understand delivering U.S. history to elementary differently to middle school, differently to high school, and differently to college, right? I do understand giving the foundations of U.S. history of where we come from, how we came, whatever. Cool. But massacres, because we are a land of gruesome stories of massacres of people, you know, slavery and all the things that has occurred. And it's just like, I don't think delivering that to elementary or middle school is palatable as it is for once you, it's kind of like expanding on a story as you go.
I think that's the way it should go.
Yes.
I think that's the way it should go.
I like that. So what I don't like is that mostly it's HBCUs and colleges that talk about Black history more so in America. That I don't agree with, and I think that should be all around.
Absolutely. Because like Black history but that's the contention that I have, because it is history.
Correct.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just kind of like, if you're not teaching it, some part of me thinks like you're leaving out a big piece of history.
You're hiding something.
You're hiding something, right? And it's like, why are you hiding it? Is it because is it going to make you look at the country differently? Is it going to make you like look at other people differently? Like, why is it that
but we're founded on racism. So.
Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like, it's, you know what I'm saying? That's not like, for me, that wasn't something that was super clear to me until I got to college. Right. Like, you know what I mean? And I was like, wow.
But do you think you would have been able to digest that in middle school?
I feel like I would have appreciated at least there's so much power in like knowing your history. And I don't know, like, I feel like I would have appreciated it though. I really feel like in college, I was like, just like, wow, because all this information is coming at me. And then you're trying to literally like go against, well, but this is what they taught me in high school. Like, this is what they taught me in middle school. Wait, this doesn't make any sense. Like, you then start to question every single thing that you've learned.
That's a good thing though.
But then at the same time too, though, I kind of see both sides.
I see where you're coming from.
Like, you know what I mean? At 18, 19, it's like...
Here's my thing. I see where we're coming from. Yeah. I'm just speaking for the questions that others may have. Yeah. In terms of, like, parents. Think about, like, parents that are telling their kids about... Let's use sex as a perfect example.
Okay.
Right? You're talking to your kids about sex differently from different ages. Yes. We're still talking about the same topic, but we're changing how we talk about the topic depending on the age, because that's when it's digestible, or that's when they'll have more questions because they're in a different stage in their life that they need more answers for, right? When we're little kids in elementary, the story is birds and the bees. When we're in middle school, yes, sex is the word that we're using, man and a woman, right? But we're not going into the details of what we do in the bedroom per se, but they talk about, you know, they talk about like maybe safe sex or like husband and wife or whatever. Yes, but still. But then by the time you get into high school, then we're talking about like, condoms, contraceptives. Like, that's when we learn the positions and this, that, and the third. Then when you get older, you're now learning about, this is how Plan B affects you. This is how, you know, birth control affects a woman's body.
Absolutely.
Like, it's the same conversation. However, it's deepening as you get older. I'm just saying, for the people that think about it in that way, don't get me wrong. I completely agree.
No, I feel you.
Can we give that whole information to a middle schooler? Can we give?
Then here's my thing, though.
I
always not think like, but like that's not the only place they're getting this information from. Like
correct.
They could talk to their friend. Like we just talked about social media, right? They could look up. So you just said like, all right, boom. In high school is when they're talking about like, you know, like condoms and all these other things. But how do you know, like in 6th, 7th grade, like they didn't hear that from like their mans or something, like, or an older uncle or whatever the case may be, right? Like, so it's like, sometimes I think it's hard to gauge because you don't even know what they're already kind of like coming with, what they already come with knowing, you know what I'm saying? Just from like their outside environment. Like there's so many different things that kids like interact with on a daily basis. And they're learning from so many different like places. So it's just kind of like...
Because information is everywhere.
Because information is everywhere, right? They could go on social media and you could literally find out everything that you know, social media isn't like, oh, you know, if you're from 5 to 13, you can only watch this specific thing, right? Like it's information for everybody. So sometimes I wonder...
Watch your kids.
Exactly.
Censor your children. Be parents.
Ooh.
How about that?
Relax. Oh.
I'm not a mother. I'm just saying.
But nah, I agree. But also, what I was gonna say before I move on to the next topic is that the kids, which is another crazy thing, the kids back then and the kids now are like two different type of kids.
Two different.
So it's like he said, where like I said, I see both sides, of course.
Yeah, I see both sides. I'm just asking for the other side.
The other side, for sure. But in his way though, when he said, it's kind of like not okay, but you can kind of like dump all that information, because it's like kids nowadays at middle school at those stages, they already understanding stuff at like a higher level. So yes,
I wouldn't say that's a back in the day kid and a today kid. I wouldn't say that, because kids are kids and they're curious at every age. I think what I would add on to that is that there is much more access now.
There is.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
There
because
is more
curiosity is always curiosity, but we didn't have as much access to every single thing, and you can't control what other kids are up to and doing at their age, because we see I have to mention it, we see like the LGBTQ plus and the curiosities of that from a very early age. I've had kids in middle school that were telling me about, that they think that they might be asexual and they might, and I'm like, do you know what that means?
Right. They're exposed.
Like, you know what I mean? Or thinking that they want to be transgendered. And it's like, baby, do you know what that means?
Right.
Like, because trendy topics, or my friend thinks and I think and I wanna, because they're impressionable. So again, parent your children.
That's a fact. Now, in terms of access, you know what I'm saying? What's up?
Access, but it's also friction. The access, we had the access back in the day, but it was inside of a big book, and you had to find it. Now
it's everywhere.
That's
true.
That is so true.
Which leads me to my next point. I want to back in the day, like you just said, it's all about books. You know what I'm saying? Access to technology was not as much. Now you have ChatGPT. You know what I'm saying? You have the calculator.
I gotta ask, how old are you?
Me, 27.
Okay. I'm 31.
What that mean?
I remember when we had yellow pages.
Absolutely.
Yellow pages
okay?
was crazy.
When we knew everybody's phone number by heart.
Yeah.
When there was pay phones and you had to know your people's number so you could dial on the pay phone.
Way back.
Okay? I remember when they brought the first big butt computers in our classrooms.
Yeah.
And we had what was it called? Lab time, where we had the computer lab time.
You had a computer,
and you couldn't search just anything because it was blocked by the school. And most kids didn't even have the computers at home. But when you did have the computers at home, it was connected to the phone too. Like everything was connected, and there was parent locks on most of these things. On everything. Like, so again, when we talk about access, and we talk about curiosity, we were curious, don't get me wrong. We was on them computers, we was trying to chat with people. That's when they started with the whole, not e-chatting with strangers, because that's when, the creepos used to pretend they was young kids and they was still, pedophiles and whatnot, was acting a fool.
Right.
So the curiosity and the craziness of the world was the same. It was just the access was different. That's why we say parent your kids. Watch what they watching.
There is so much information. There's so much that is out there.
I shouldn't be scrolling on TikTok and I'm seeing some little girl doing her little dances and people having their babies on there with no shirts and no this. Hello. Dressing the kids with the little crop tops and the different outfits. Listen, we could go on a rabbit hole about that, but we on education.
You just swung the
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a rabbit hole.
You feel what I'm saying?
I'm telling you, y'all make me scared to have kids in this here world. Is getting darker and darker.
Every time.
Scary.
But run it back.
Run it back.
Access to education. ChatGPT, calculators. Your thoughts. Do you think that technology is a positive influence on education that we have in the schools right now, or is it a negative one?
I think it's both. I think it's
what's the positive and what's the negative? Give us a pro and give us a con.
All right, so boom. Positive is in that like I have no problems with like somebody using a calculator, right? Like they should be able to kind of use a calculator. I think that the times are changing, right?
Because I remember that's all we had was a calculator.
Exactly, right? But like I think times are changing, and I don't agree with like kind of like with times changing, you kind of do things that are like not kind of like evolving with the way time goes. You know what I'm saying? You have to change with time. So like we are getting more technologically advanced. It is a good thing to kind of like introduce technology, knowing how to use a computer, knowing how to like type, knowing how to use different like websites and things like that, knowing that for research, because that's literally what you use in college, right? Like in higher education, everything is really digital. So I think from a young age, you should kind of start getting, you know what I'm saying, hip to that. The problem is kids don't want to think no more.
Right.
That's the problem. They don't want to think no more. So like you tell somebody write a paper, easy, they plug that into ChatGPT and it pops up in the entire paper.
That's right.
And I wish.
You know what I mean?
I promise you, I think we're getting dumber.
100% getting dumber. I always say.
Well, not we, because my generation, we already went through school.
But I always say like my biggest
essay.
fear, I always say that my biggest fear for the future, especially as an educator, is that we're going to have a whole bunch of people that are just incapable. And I'm saying like incapable of like thinking, like critical thinking, like, you know what I'm saying, digesting information, like analyzing.
Common sense won't be so common.
Note taking. Like it's like a lot of these skills that like we kind of had to kind of do because there was no computer, ChatGPT or Chegg, or there was an app. I actually didn't know this. My students told me about an app where you could take a picture of the math problem and it would literally show you how to do that. So I was like,
back in the day, we had to write out the problem on Google and then it would find the closest to or how to do it.
But you still have to kind of like show work. You know what I mean? Like these ones, they do the entire work for you. So like, one of the things that, you know what I'm saying, we're battling right now is just like this use of ChatGPT, because even like a lot of the AI software is not like reputable. Like it's not like they are like reliable sources. So sometimes, a kid can use ChatGPT and you know they use ChatGPT, but like, can you really prove that they use ChatGPT? Because you can't necessarily like say like, oh, I ran it through this AI software, like, and it popped up that it was used, because a lot of them do have like issues. So like, I just think that kids, we're getting to a point where they can't think no more. Like,
is ChatGPT considered forgery? Because I remember we used
100%.
Okay, we got in trouble for forging. So
we did. 100%, because it's not your work. Now, there are big. I mean, I use ChatGPT, right? Like, now, not to write my papers. We gotta. Not to we gotta. No,
wait,
but like,
we got him.
Not to write my papers. But like, I am the least grammatically inclined person. I don't know, like, if I use this tone, this verb, this, that, and the third.
The right punctuation.
You know, right punctuation. So I'm like, yo, here's this paper. Can you fix the punctuation for me? You know what I'm saying? Make the sentence sound better, but it's still my words. But it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's ways in which you could use it. You know what I mean? There's ways in which you could use it that is not necessarily you, like, it doing the thinking for you. I think where we're losing them is like, it just does the thinking for them. Like
I use ChatGPT for work.
Exactly.
When I'm sending out an email, when
I
I'm
do it.
So like when I'm sending out an email because somebody done tried me.
Yeah.
So I write what I really mean, and then I click the rewrite professionally,
and it
and then it does.
So I think
as per
what I said.
And it helps. It saves me my job every time. And I'll be like, thank you.
There's uses for it, but I do think that it's doing a lot of the thinking for kids, because they don't really want to.
Because you're not supposed to use it as a kid.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, that brings another conversation around, like, at what age do you expose your kids to technology? Which I have my own opinions on, about.
So we're going there.
Okay, we can all share our opinions.
Yeah.
Okay, we
I personally think that, like, all kids should be introduced to technology, because I think that we need to be ahead of technology.
Yeah.
So I think you should be introduced to technology, but within proper guidelines.
100%.
Not for you can't be a slave to technology. Technology 100%. Has to be a slave to you. Mm-hmm. You have to make use of it to better or enhance what it is that you already have going on.
Absolutely.
So if you introduce it to a kid in that sense, then it's perfect, because that's where we get those IT kids that grow up and that knows how to, code and software and this and a third. It's important. It's need for you. Because if you teach your kid to not, you don't teach your kid to know technology, then they're behind the curve, essentially. And that's a disservice.
That is true.
That's a disservice. But I'm not raising no dummies in terms of you need this to function as a human. Right.
It's a tool,
no.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just
okay, we agree.
I agree. No, it's it needs to be controlled, and
it's a tool,
parents,
not your livelihood.
Monitor your kids, right?
Yeah.
They should not be
on,
you know what I'm saying?
Kids.
And they should not be on TikTok at 4 o'clock in the morning type thing.
Parents, they don't even understand the technology
themselves. They don't.
Kids understand it
way more than they do.
But that's the thing. You don't need to understand it to parent your kid. How many of us, because we're all either West Indians, Caribbean people in this room or that watch this, how many of us come from parents that did not go to school, that did not have an education, but knew to sit on that table with you and make sure you go
through your homework?
If Johnny had 5 apples,
I think that's what is missing, though.
The parenting does not need
you know what I mean?
For you to know it. It just means for you to be monitoring, for you to have that stance of hey,
be aware.
Okay, you know what I mean? That's what I mean. Because just because your kid knows this technology doesn't mean that you can't take the technology away from your kid and go revert back to paper and pen. Remember when we did math and you had to show your work?
Show your work.
Do that.
Yep.
And if it's incorrect, that's okay. When they get to school, the teacher gonna correct it and say, oh, this is correct or this is wrong. Absolutely. And then you come back home and you get that report card and you realize, oh, baby, you don't get it? Say less. We gonna get you a tutor.
Absolutely.
You don't need to know the math work to do that.
You just hit me with 2 throwbacks, man.
Just saying.
That show your work and Regents time?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Hello?
I mean, I tell my kids to show. They can't
your work.
Just give me the answer. That is a biggest pet peeve of mine. Show me how you got there. I'm all about thinking. Yeah, I get your answer. Cool. This is the answer, but tell me how you got to that answer. Tell me about what's going on in your mind. That's kind of what I like to see from kids. And I think what we're seeing right now is we can't really see that because ChatGPT is their mind, right?
Yeah.
The internet is their mind, and they can't this idea of think for yourself, answer this question, think critically. They struggle to do that because all they got to do is just easily just Google the thing, and then that's it.
So speaking of that, let's go to you mentioned that a little bit earlier about our kids not knowing how to read.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
The biggest thing for me, I remember when we were growing up, we had book fairs.
Yes.
We had reading lists
that
we had to go through. And we had those things where it's reading comprehension, where you had to say who's the protagonist, who's the antagonist, what is the story about, what is the summary. You had to do book reports.
What a throwback.
We are not doing that anymore.
What a throwback.
Where are we? As you're an educator currently, where are we with reading comprehension and ELA and things of that nature?
Parents complain that they give too much homework. That's the issue. So when I was in school, we had to read a book over the summer.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Write a report on the book. You know what I'm saying? We had packets. We had all of this
We used to compete to see who read the most.
Exactly. We had all of this enrichment things. You know what I'm saying? Now, recently, there's been a lot of complaints. Oh, I want to spend time. I mean, and as you should. Nobody's taking away family time. But there's been a movement as of lately. I'm in a group with a whole bunch of educators around the country, and that's what we say. The parents would email, why did you give my son or my daughter all of this homework? They have no time for family and la 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 la. So they're look, if my son or my daughter can't learn this in school, then it should be moved to the next day, which I completely disagree with, because I think you should be able to take what you learn from school and go and apply that at home. Now, with that being said, there's some teachers that would wall out with the homework, right? So it's you should.
What's walling out with homework? Let me just ask, because I come from an age where we had packets.
100%.
Summer packets.
I don't believe in busy work.
So I don't know what that means.
I don't believe in busy work. The work should have an intention. There needs to be something that they're going to use with that work, not just to take up time. And I think sometimes teachers give assignments that take up time and are not intentional. So like, I'll give you an example. Like I'm a science teacher. I teach science. So like,
that's my least favorite subject.
Oh my gosh.
I failed living environment twice.
I teach living environment.
I failed it twice.
I got a 95 on the music.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Wait, living environment was that sedimentary rock
No,
stuff?
that's rock. That's earth science.
That's earth science.
Yeah. Living environment is like cells, like mitochondria.
Mitochondria. Yeah.
All that good shit.
Hated all of them.
Hated.
Yeah, it was a dub. Yeah.
I failed the first one 63. Took it again, passed with a 65, and then take it again.
No, I was a 70s kid. I got my 70s and I was good.
I hated living environment.
So here, going back to reading comprehension, I have a retention rate. So with living environment, because it was reading stuff, and I could turn it into a rap or something like that, cue cards.
Yeah.
I can study that much, learn it. Good, I'm moving on.
Exactly.
So I got my little 70s and I'm good on that.
Exactly.
The key you used to make for the
you had to know the definition of the word.
The throwbacks, man.
Exactly. You couldn't use those ChatGPT. You had to know that sucker, and you had to remember. You know what I mean? We used to study with one another. You know,
absolutely.
Good times, man.
I used to turn things into little raps so I can remember.
And that's what you kind of want to encourage kids. That's what you encourage kids to do, is like make sense of this information in a way that makes sense to you. But they don't want to do that because again, you have all of these things that kind of does it for you.
Yeah. But to go back to your train of thought, where you were originally saying before I cut you off.
You're good. Like,
you were talking about homework, busy work versus
just like being intentional. So like in my class, for me, for example, right, like, so there's a website that I record like video lectures on. So like I never send my students home with any homework that they need to do, like thinking, because they're just going to plug it into ChatGPT and then tell me the answer. It doesn't really help. So I do all of that work in the classroom where they're not using ChatGPT, and it's like they're actively using their brain.
That's very
you know what I mean?
That's slick, but that's good.
Right?
I'll hear that.
But like, if you one of the things I do is I'm saying, all right, boom, go home. I recorded this lecture on parts of the cell. Write it in your notebook, come to class. I'm not gonna reteach this. We're gonna do an activity that like goes off of that. So if you don't have the notes, like, you know, you're not in a very good position, right? You kind of need to go home and kind of like do that heavy lifting of like taking the notes, having the notes in your notebook, and then you come to class and we do an activity based off of that. And the kids could always go back to the video in case they were confused with anything like that. But like, that's an example of like being intentional, and I'm not just giving you a whole bunch of stuff every day and telling you to go do that. And
that's modern day teaching.
And
I've never heard that before.
And 9 times out of 10, like no one even really checks it for real. You know what I mean? So that's where I think like busy work versus like intentional work. But if you're going back to like reading levels, like I think that also starts from elementary school. I think recently there's just like a lot of like promotions and not really like thinking about like what can the child actually do. You know what I mean? So like you have students that get to
No, keep talking. No, keep talking, because you just hit something and I'm about to put one there. Go ahead.
You know, like you have kids who are like in the 7th grade who are on a 3rd grade reading level, right? And it's like, how did we get to that point? And it's a thing where like, year after year after year after year after year that they are reading behind grade level, right? You know what I'm saying? Parents also know these things, but it's like you're doing your child a disservice because by the time they get to high school and they're reading on a 4th grade reading level, like the high school material is on a high school reading level. So like it just creates such a big barrier, and it also makes kids disconnected from school because then they feel like they can't do it, right? They feel like they can't do it. Then it's like sometimes if they feel like they can't do it, they act out in class. You know what I mean? That leads you to get in trouble. You get to the principal's office, you're suspended. You know, that then leads you to, not to miss days from school. You're behind, you give up on school. So it kind of forms this very negative relationship like with schooling because you're so behind and it's so hard for you to catch up. So like as a high school teacher, I see this all the time, and I teach 9th graders. So like when I see what they're coming in with, I'm like, damn. So I know exactly what this is going to be. You know what I mean? Like they would be able to tell what was stressed in middle school, what was stressed in elementary school based off of the skills that they're coming with. But I think sometimes things are not monitored at a very, 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 very young age. And it kind of creates like this very like multi-layered problem as you move on in like your education system.
What I was about to say.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chef.
What messed us up in the discrepancy between millennials and Gen Zers is that no child left behind.
I was going to talk about that.
Let me tell you something. There was something about Your child getting left back, that made a parent in tune.
Yeah.
That made a parent say, oh, baby, where them packets at? Where's the reading list? Because one thing about it, not my baby gonna get left back.
Absolutely.
Right? Then it pushed that whole narrative of like, oh, we need to learn because ain't nobody playing with you. Oh, your child did not meet the mark. Okay? And then, you know, it was frowned upon because now you gotta, your child.
You got a child.
You know what I mean? So now you felt like, oh, did I fail as a parent? Now you doubled down on your kid. You checked homeworks. You was in it because you were a part of your child's education.
That's the thing. And I think that's what's missing.
Then they changed it to the No Child Left Behind. And all them suckers get passed on.
They just get passed on.
And the
grades
parents
went low.
The parents said, oh, he gonna go to the next grade anyway.
And then that's it. You know what I'm saying?
That's the teacher's fault. That's the teacher's business.
Exactly. There's this, and I hate it so much.
That changed, baby. That changed.
I hate it so much because there's this like
world.
There's this tension, and I always tell parents, I'm like, yo, like I'm working with you. Like I believe in it takes a village, right? It takes many people to raise your child. Like I'm not doing anything again. I don't want to see your child fail. You know what I mean? That's not why I'm here. Like our job is to work as a team to do the best for this child. Well, so like when you feel like I am in like competition with you, I'm telling you how to raise your kid and la 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 la. I'm like, I'm really not telling you how to raise your kid.
But half the time I am.
I won't. Exactly.
Half the time I am.
But actually, let's keep it a buck.
After you know, like
let's keep it a buck because the reality is you dumped your kid here because you thought this was what just free daycare.
Exactly.
Right? Because you know what I mean. You didn't even care where you. Technically, you did. Most of the times, parents go to zone schools, right? So you dumped your kid off here, and you like, oh. Between the hours of this time, that's up to you.
That's between him and the teacher. You know what I mean?
Okay, sure. If it's up to me, the teacher, technically, I'm not just an educator, but technically, I'm also a guardian in this here time. I'm watching your kid misbehaving, acting a damn fool, can't learn nothing, not paying attention. Of course, I'm telling you how to raise. Parent your kid.
Yeah.
For real.
Here's what's wrong with little Timmy and Johnny and Becky.
But then they fight you.
Get
well,
together.
That is not my child. I'm like, look, there is no reason for me to lie about like your child, right?
No,
like that.
Like my child don't act like that at home because he barely home.
Like I'm not here to sort of like say like your child. Like I'm not here to like your like,
child can't read, Miss Ma'am.
Like that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, look, this is what the data says. This is what is being said, and like this is what you should do. And I think sometimes like another thing that I've heard from parents and even like teachers who are parents is like sometimes they can't really be involved because what we're teaching kids is like. They don't understand, which I completely understand, right? So, like, for example, like, there's some people who are like saying, yo, the way they teach math now, like,
math has changed.
I cannot.
Math has changed.
I cannot.
Are you kidding me?
Even at an elementary level, right? Like, third grade,
they changed the
grade.
process.
Yeah, you know what I mean? They changed the process completely different. So it's just kind of like the parents are like, look, that's between you.
Math.
Yeah, that's between you and the teacher. If you don't get it, that's the teacher's problem because there's no way I could understand this. You know what I mean? And like, I you know what I'm saying? Like, I can understand that, but it's like the reading levels that I get very, very like, and it's very prevalent in our community as Black people. Like the illiteracy rates are really, really high. And like what we're doing is that we're just like passing kids on and passing kids on. COVID was a big, big time for that, where it was just kind of like, yeah, this person didn't do anything, but we just gonna give them this grade so that they can get on to the next grade level. But it really does create like a huge gap as you move up.
I'm gonna say something that might not be a fan favorite.
Be careful now. But that's normal for you.
Yeah.
Go off, though. Go off, though.
I say what the people are thinking.
Bottom part, just
go like that. Tap the bottom up.
Oh.
No, like.
No, it's good.
It's good?
Okay, back.
Yeah,
that's good? All right.
Yeah. I think you nudged it one time and it was giving some white noise.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay. I'm going to say something that is not a fan favorite that people don't like to hear.
Right.
But it's true.
Right.
Like I said about, I don't like the fact that they did the, No Child Left Behind.
Take your time. I feel a clip coming.
I don't know if y'all remember this, but when we was in school, they had the special class.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
They had the special class, and that was for the behaviorally challenged students, the educationally challenged students, the students that needed a little more one-on-one attention, right? They had the what's the thing where they had like a special person that goes with it? They still have
like
that now.
What's it
like a paraprofessional or something else. I forgot what it's called. But I miss those days. Is what I'm saying.
So here's the thing. I don't like that. For you to separate
I know.
And
but I liked it. Here's why I say that. Because as somebody that lived through that, sometimes you gotta weed them out.
Yeah, but it's like
sometimes you do. Because the reason why I say that is because I went to a public school.
Absolutely.
Right? And I speak on that because teachers have big classrooms.
Absolutely.
They're underpaid, overworked, and it's like 30 kids to one. You know what I mean? And we're talking about middle school or high school kids. That is a lot of personalities and emotions to essentially, to teach or educate and just to manage throughout the day. You have some students that are far behind. Then you have the students that are right on the mark. There's some kids that are way advanced. Weed them out. Tighten in the classrooms.
Right.
Because some kids do need more one-on-one attention.
They do.
Some kids do need that behavioral management. That I can't teach this classroom and manage these disruptive kids and try to reach the kid that's so far behind that can't even read out loud.
It is a lot.
You know what I mean?
And we're not trained for that.
It's overwhelming. It's a lot. And you don't even get paid enough for this.
No, we don't.
Okay? And the kids that are failing in your classroom, you're being looked at and reprimanded in terms of like, well, what are you doing in the classroom?
Exactly.
Why are the kids not getting it?
Facts.
Weed them out.
The thing is, it's a double-edged sword, though. It's a double-edged sword.
I like those days.
It's a double-edged sword.
Those were the less sensitive days.
Yeah.
When we said your child needs help.
That is true. It is less. Yeah.
Good luck.
You know what I'm saying?
Good luck.
I left education behind. That is for God's soldiers, and that is no longer me. I did my time. I'll tell you that. No, seriously, I think it's really important because those kids ended up having that time. And it helped. And you know what it is like?
Right.
Where they're like, oh, you have a class clown, and you used to be able to say, okay, I'm going to send you to the principal's office or the dean's office, or like, oh, you can be removed from my classroom. It made you tighten up because you didn't want to be labeled as the kid that went to that class.
But like we also now live in such a very highly sensitive mental health kind of like era, and we consider and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not problematizing it, whatever, but I'm saying that like we consider like, all right, like how is this going to mentally like affect the child, right? Like in that you're removing them from the classroom. It's like they know they're in a special class. It would make them feel, whatever. They would lose interest and all of that stuff. So that's kind of like why
your interest was already lost in the classroom.
But the problem is also
I can't help you.
That's true.
In the midst of 30 kids. I can't even see your mental issues. All I can see is your disruptiveness.
That's where it becomes a double-edged sword.
I can't see that you're dyslexic because you don't want to read out loud and you want to act out because you can't read right now.
Right.
I can't do
also,
that.
Sometimes the parents don't report these things.
They don't.
No, I get.
You know what I'm saying? That's another thing that I'm like,
I won't put that on the parents. That I won't put on the parents sometimes. The reason why I won't put that on the parents is because I'll say this. With a parent, as a parent I'm not a parent, I'm sorry. I said as a parent. Some parents, you're managing a lot, one. Two, you're not educating your kid essentially. So in the capacities in which you deal with your kid, sometimes you can miss it, right? Because we're talking about low-income families. We're talking about impoverished communities. We're talking about kids that go to zone schools. We're talking about public schools here, right? Just to be clear, we're not talking about charter school kids because you have to be able to read and be in a certain mark to be in charter school, right?
But also
or private schools. So we're not talking about those schools because they own that. They're not playing with you. You know what I mean? We're talking about public schools. We're talking about those parents that sometimes you're working double and stuff like that. You're barely home. And when you are home, you're operating with your kids in the capacity of, can they take care of themselves? Can they feed themselves closer? Are they interdependent or whatever the case may be?
Yeah,
great. They're independent. They can function. They can talk. They can move. They can act. I've done my job as a parent. Right. A lot of times you won't see those signs.
Right.
But educationally, if you're in a smaller classroom, right? Then it's like, oh, I can see where the disruption is coming from. I can see where you need help and take slower time to read with you and do that, because the special classes that was back then, they had those teachers that were there to actually help you with your needs. Now, the only thing was there was a stigma. There was a stigma, don't get me wrong, but let's bring that back.
That's true. But then also,
I love it. And I always say, let's bring back that. Let's bring back shame. Let's bring back a lot of things.
Let's definitely bring back shame.
Let's bring back shame.
Let's definitely bring back shame.
Yeah, let's bring it back.
I think a lot of things are normalized today that I'm like, bro, are you crazy?
And that's the thing. We're being so sensitive that we are
accepting anything.
We're accepting anything. And we letting them run. No, your kid should not be in the classroom with my kid. I'm so sorry. Your kid needs extra help. And my kids needs to stay focused on where we at to keep growing.
There needs to be like, I think, so right now they're not trying to like separate them, mental health issues, and I can see both sides of the coin. Like I can see like where it's like, look, I don't want to separate them because I do think it's important for like a kid's like psyche and for like their mental and like just growing in general to be able to interact with kids of different like abilities and things like that, right?
Yeah, but even in the big class, you can get bullied easier,
right? But then
because now I can see that you can't read, and now I'm gonna and make fun of your stuttering, make fun of your pronunciation of the words.
But it made you tough.
No, it didn't. It made you act up. It made you make it worse for the educator.
For some.
In some instances.
For some.
In some instances, it could.
That's just my opinion.
But yeah, wow, y'all just hit a lot. That was popping everything, man. Golly. I can't even recap. It was a lot. Well, okay.
We're gonna move on to the next.
Yes, what I wanted to ask you. Back in the day, PTAs was like parent-teacher conference was a big thing.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? How is that looking for like modern days types now?
So I think it's different. So at my school, like we do parent-teacher conferences virtually. You know what I mean? So you do meet with the parent and they get to sign up, you know, like for whatever time. So you have your appointments, they sign up, and they just want to ask you. So I think it looks different with the grade level. So I teach the 9th graders, and when I always say I teach 9th graders, I teach 9th grade students and I teach 9th grade parents, because 9th grade parents are, 9th grade parents are also coming in very nervous.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's like a new school, it's a new environment, it's new rigor. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like middle school. There's a lot that I expect from their children. There's a lot that I ask from their children. So it's always like, how is my kid doing? You know what I'm saying? I noticed that their grade in this, you know, was low. And I'm like, look, it's the first quarter. You know, I just had the parent-teacher conference early in November. Like,
we love those parents, by the way. Shout out to the parents that's asking. And
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, there are parents who would be invested and say, like, yo, like, you know, how is my kid doing? Like, I just want to check, you know what I'm saying? And check in. And your kid is doing fine. There's nothing to worry about. Or it's like, yeah, they didn't do so hot. I'm like, yeah, it's the first quarter. There's a lot they're adjusting to. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just give them time. They're trying to learn so many different things at once. You know what I mean? So, like, it's definitely still a thing. I don't know about in many other schools. We don't do it at the end of the year. We just say, here's a report card at the end of the year. You got promoted or not. And that's...
You got promoted or not.
Well, everyone gets promoted.
Yeah, well, everyone gets promoted. So it's like, it's very hard for you to get left back. But they're definitely still a thing, though. And I actually do enjoy them.
Do you have PTAs in your school? Because I remember from the schools that I've worked at, there was PTAs, which is really great. So parent-teacher conference and PTA are different. So PTA is more so like where the parents are involved in the school and they actually have an active role in the school in terms of like putting on events and being there for the
PTCs.
So parent-teacher conference is like normal because you have to come to the school, like all the teachers get there to talk to your, basically it's like a progress report to your 100%. Parents so that they know where you have been and where you've been acting up and stuff.
You catch a lot of kids in some lies.
Right. Because my mama said and that was a lie.
You catch some kids in some lies.
But do you see that the PTA is still alive and booming? Like, do you have a lot of parents that are still active in schools?
I definitely think that there are parents who are still active in schools. Would I like to see more? 100%. But I do understand that, like, you know, parents have jobs, they work and everything, and you know, there's a lot, but they're definitely still there. I don't really know exactly what they talk about in there or what exactly they bring. And I'm not saying that to be shady.
That sounded real spicy.
No, I'm not trying to be shady, but like,
ladies and gentlemen, we got them.
Here's what I'll say. Like, the parent presence in the school is very important.
It's very important.
I have 100%. Never seen one child whose parent was in the PTA and actively coming to the school be a problem child.
But that's always the issue. It's always like it's the parents that of the kids that are like amazing. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah.
But that's the thing. Like those are the parents that want to take the extra mile to ensure.
I always
their
had
kids'
the argument that if they weren't
too.
there, the kid is still going to be fine. Right? You know, the kid is still intrinsically motivated. You know what I mean? To still like succeed and everything. So I'm just always like, yeah, this is nice. But it's like, this kid is intrinsically motivated. He's a great kid. Even if you weren't involved in the PTA, like you'd still be like fine. And sometimes that's how I feel about parent-teacher conferences too. I'm like, the parents I do really want to see. I'm like, y'all ain't go. Like it's really the parents of like, your child is doing great. There's really no questions that I have to answer or something I have to say. Like it's fine.
Okay, here's a question I want to ask though. Do you work in a public school or
so
charter school?
I work in a Catholic school.
In a Catholic school? Okay, cool. Because so I've worked
I used to work in a charter, but I ran away.
I've worked in a public school. Okay. And I have worked predominantly for after school programming and stuff like that. So do you have that in your school? And do you see that play a part in the children's behavior during day school when they have something they're a part of in after school?
Like sports and stuff, 100%. I would say this. If they're not motivated by their grades, they're motivated by, whether or not they're on the team. Yo, at the end of the quarter, I cannot fail Mr. Yoda. Like, they're going to kick me off the basketball team. Like, I can't, you know what I mean? So, like, sports is definitely a very, very big thing. And we hold our student athletes to such, like, you're a student athlete. Like, you're a student first, and then you're an athlete, right? And so we always make that really clear to kids. And we tell them, like, look, you need to make sure that your grades are up. Because if you want to play this season, like, you can't fail kind of thing. Right. You know what I mean? But sometimes that gets you attacked because some parents could be like, oh, you don't want my child to play. That's why you failed them and blah, 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 blah,
yeah, blah. That's always that relationship.
I mean? But I definitely think after school activities is a huge motivating factor for kids. I think it's also a good thing for them to get involved in. It gives them like a different view of like life. It gives them like skills like team building, community building, like reliability, dependency, like this idea like a team, like we're all working together as a team. Everybody's just depending on you kind of thing. You can't just kind of do your own thing.
Yeah.
It kind of forces a sense of collaboration and things like that. So like, I definitely think it teaches them a lot of stuff that we kind of like do in school, but it's like very, very low key. Like I think sports teams and like activities and things like that, like bring them together in a different way. So like I said, like I moderate like the Haitian club in my school. So like they do
as
like
a Nigerian man.
Come on now. Man, right?
Holding it down with the Haitian culture in the schools.
So like I teach them like choreography to like different like compa music, and that I definitely see them also in a different light than when I see them in the classroom. Like how able, like their muscle memory, how are they able to like pick up on moves like very fast? All right, what do I need to like slow down? What do I, you know what I'm saying? And this idea of like them even helping each other, like, no, you turn the arm this way and then you move this way. You know what I mean? Like it definitely allows me as a teacher to also kind of see them. Because I think sometimes as a teacher, and this is a charge that I'm trying to get better at, and I tell everybody to get better at, like you're teaching a human. You know what I mean? A complex human being, right? It's not like you just see them as a student. Like, yeah, they do work, they hand it in. It's very transactional, right? The way in which like teaching is seen. And I always say like, you're teaching a human that has emotions, complex identities, things that are like, you know what I'm saying? Like intermixing. So you always have to like teach the whole child. That's kind of what we say is like teach the whole child and not really like, yeah, this is the student kind of thing. So
I agree. I think that's very important. Yeah. So like what I've always seen is that like teachers like yourself that have extracurricular activities or after school programs that they're a part of, building relationships with the students beyond just like, here's what you need to learn.
Absolutely.
It builds that rapport where they are more inclined to listen to you, respect you, and hear you out, trust you, and behave in a way that's different because they don't want to let you down because they're also really attached to the activity itself. So I think that plays a really big part because I know that like you work in Catholic school, so I don't know if that affects you, but the budget cuts for all of the extracurricular activities and stuff like that. That's why I mentioned after school. That's been happening for a very long time in public schools since I was working at public school. So like they lost a lot of budgets, like a lot of extracurricular activities were taken away, and the importance of after school was so big because we were able to fill in those spaces where they were able to have art classes and you know, basketball or different clubs that they could be a part of and like, you know, get connected and stuff like that. So I see that played a really big part where like even if they were acting up during day school or they weren't doing something well in day school, a lot of the times the way that the teachers would motivate them is to say like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna call Miss B, or like I'm gonna call so and let them know that you can't be in a dance club, or like you can't be in the show because you're not elevating here, or like, you know what I mean, or your grades are slipping, and then we'd be the ones to talk to them and kind of get them to get back on par, because it's like, actually, this is really important to me. So I think I have to do this. And so like that relationship with education and mixing it with something that they're very passionate and into works. And a lot of times it can't just be sports, because not a lot of kids are sport inclined, you know? So having clubs are very important. To know that they're very excited about a compound class. It's like, yeah, there's different things that they'll be interested in that they want. Like we've had fashion club or different things, and it's anime club, or like we've had a club where they just played video games just to release as kids, or especially because in, you know, public schools there's a lot of kids that come from impoverished families that they don't have those at home either. Or like taking them on trips that they've never been to or anything like that. They build a rapport and they care more, and thus brings up their education as well, and the relationship they have with education, that it's not just rigid.
And it kind of brings the whole conversation like educational equity, right? And like talking about like was that my fault? My fault. Go ahead.
No. This is so. I love it when I can just chill. Go ahead. Educational equity. By the way, tap the mic. The bottom.
Oh, my fault.
You Gucci.
Is it good?
Yeah.
All right.
My fault. You went exactly where I was gonna go.
Yeah, like
educational.
Oh, my fault.
You sure he just?
Oh.
I gotta get the cord. It's the cord.
Okay. Yeah. My fault. 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah. So it brings about like educational equity, right? Like in that schools in specific neighborhoods do have the money to be able to fund, right, all of these clubs, to have all of these things, and then their students also be able to take part of these things. And then you also have schools in some neighborhoods that don't have the money or don't have the budget or to kind of like invest in things like these, right? After school activities, you know, prep classes, right? Things for enrichment, you know what I mean? Enrichment activities. So it then brings about like, you know, there is a conversation to be had about like some of the skills that some students may come with from a very wealthy area or from a wealthy district versus some of the skills that they may come with from a district that is not as wealthy is so different, but it's because of the resources that was available to them. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, there's like New York State, they just like recently like changed the curriculum, right? Specifically in science. And I was like, this is so crazy because you're asking us to buy all of this lab materials, right? To institute these new things. But like all of these things cost at least 10 G's. You know what I mean? Like all of these these materials, right? Like legit, they cost a lot of bread now.
Because you guys are getting microscopes now and stuff like that.
It's like a whole lot of, they just changed the entire living environment curriculum. There's new labs, new everything, you know what I mean? So now we're like, so what about some schools in some not so great neighborhoods that would not necessarily have the money to sort of like buy all these things? Like, did y'all not think about that? Like, you're just kind of like saying, here's the curriculum. I mean, that's my thing. It's just like some people just make these decisions. They're never in the classrooms. They're never in these communities.
They show pictures. That's what they do.
You know what I mean?
So is this
in the impoverished communities, they just show pictures.
But then like it's not also, but then it's like when the kids get to a test, right? It's like they're asking questions on these things, but it's like they didn't really do them. You know what I mean? Like there's ways in which it's going to stratify like kids who come from like a very, very wealthy neighborhood versus, you know, not a wealthy neighborhood. Another example is the SAT, right? Yeah. Like SAT is a prime example of that. Like where, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But then it's like you have people.
You was not prepared for the SAT.
I didn't take it.
Yes.
Like SAT, ACT, all of that. Like it's like people have money to pay for prep classes.
We were prepped.
You know? You know?
I'm sorry, millennials, we were prepped. I'm sorry.
You know, they have money to pay for prep classes. They have money to pay for like a tutor. They have money to pay for the test itself. You know what I mean? But like you go to some communities, it's
I think I still have the books in my house.
Yeah, but it's like knowing what to do with the books, right? How do you use the books? Like
no, I'm talking about we did.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But like part of the reason why, I mean, I had the books, but like I didn't take no prep course and I kind of had to like figure out how to study for the SAT, but it's not not really even studying. It's all about testing strategies. But like, they're not going to teach you that unless you like go to like a prep course that you're dropping $700, $800, $900,000 for, right? Like,
what's happening to our education?
You know what I mean? Like, it's a business. Like, there's a whole.
So like, here's
I
my
think I
question.
had it good.
What you did. Oh, here's my question though. So you said they give you like new curriculum. So who does that? They like the DOE?
State. So yeah, so it's like the New York State Board of Education.
The Board of Education.
Yeah, so they released a memo at the end of last year saying, well, you know, we are changing the new curriculum in June of 2025 is the first administration of the new living environment regions, but in 2 years you're getting rid of the regions. So it's like, why did you just institute a new test?
Glad you went there. Put a pin on it.
You know what I mean?
For me, sorry to cut you off. You could also answer that too.
Yeah.
We don't know Trump about the president. He said what he said about the DOE and everything like that. Want to get your hindsight on that about him removing I believe the DOE from everything.
The DOE, removing the DOE is going to impact like students that need like that have IEPs, so students that need like special accommodations, things that I always say like education is run by the state. I think
Sorry, why you said that? The students with the IEP, are they not in a special class?
They're not. No, so they're all in integrated classrooms.
Oh, that's crazy.
Special class. Yeah. Remember with the special class?
It depends on some. It depends. Generally, how it works is like they're in an integrated classroom, but they may have like an intervention like study hall or something where they get pulled out by like a professional and then they get whatever help that they need.
That's too much. Just put them in a class with the professional.
But then here's the thing: where's the professional? There's nobody there. That's another thing is that there's such teaching or just like people in education. It's at a very all-time low. People are leaving more than they are entering. You know what I mean? So it's like we have to conserve what we have. You know, and like literally, like I did research on this. Like there is there's been a huge attrition rate with like teachers from when COVID happened till now. Like thousands of teachers have left the class. There are districts that are still not even fully staffed right now because they just have nobody to like teach their kids. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, you can separate them, but it's like, who's going to take them? Who's going to teach them? And then who's trained?
This is what I'm talking about. Like, you know I miss way back when. I'm telling you, because we even had classes for Spanish-speaking students. We had classes for
I was in that thing.
For the Haitian Creole-speaking students. They had teachers that spoke Creole and English to integrate you into but kept you on track on the curriculum. That was very important. The kids that were on the special classes, they had special teachers for those kids to keep them up the mark, but to teach them in different ways that they actually needed. Hence why I'm saying, let's bring that back.
We gotta bring that back.
Gotta bring it back, but ain't
bring that back,
like you said, though,
baby.
There's
ain't
nobody.
No funding and ain't nobody.
There's no funding and there's nobody. Like it's really.
I don't think that there's nobody. I think they don't want to pay the somebodies. Because there's always somebody for something. Because we had those somebodies.
It's a ripple effect.
But they don't want to pay that.
They don't want to pay you. So that's obviously going to prevent people from wanting to go in there, right? So it's going to literally cause, like I said, there's more people leaving. You know how many people saying like, "You want to be a teacher? Don't do that." Like that is.
It's a calling. I always say, like, literally, it's a calling. It's not for everybody. A person from God Himself plucked you and said, "Come here and do this here work."
It's 100% a calling.
Social workers and teachers and first responders, literally, God bless you.
Yep.
You are the backbone of America. You keep us running around and you don't get enough flowers and child. Ooh, that's all I have to say.
Definitely don't get enough flowers.
All right. Because I've been in education and I've done social work. So it's like I did 2 out of 3. My job is...
it's a 9 to 3, 9 to 5, but nobody tells you about all of the stuff that you got to take home.
No,
right?
it's around the clock
You got to call a parent. You got to do this. You got to be on top of your email. You got to be on top of like everything.
You got to be on top of the curriculum. You got to be on top of the curriculum. Find a way to teach it when you don't really like it.
That's why I teach high school, because some of these things I don't really have to, deal with more.
So it seems like it's so much to touch on when it comes to just from kindergarten all the way to high school education in general, schooling. It's like it's so much we could touch on, man. Wish we had the time, because I do want to touch on some more though.
Here's what I'll say before we wrap up. Let's leave on a positive note.
100%.
Give us your top 3 favorite things about being an educator.
Oh, 100%.
That's early though. I kind of want to touch college a little bit.
About to wrap it up. I thought you said he's about to wrap up.
I stopped at high school because I want to touch college a little bit.
Oh, okay. Because I thought you said we was wrapping up the episode.
Nah, wrapping up high school. Feel me?
Okay,
I want to touch college a little bit, real quick.
We'll bring that
Hold
back.
that though.
I got you.
Hold that though. Top 3.
Okay.
Yes. College. College. So right now, you already know, people like college ain't really the best route to go to right now. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, that's about to be one. They're like, you could do trade school.
Yes.
You could do the boot camps or whatever. For the prices that college tuitions are right now, do you personally believe that it's still worth it?
100%. I am definitely not one of those like college is not worth it. I think that's very dangerous rhetoric. I don't agree with that rhetoric. I think it's very, very like absolute. I think when you say things like college is not worth it, well, that's based on your experience. And what does worth it mean? You know what I mean? Like, is it that you're saying that like, look, you paid X amount of money for this and like it's not really paying out for you, but like what does the paying out look like? Like I feel like everybody's story is so different, which is why I feel like you should not be spewing that kind of rhetoric. I would agree. I would say though that the system needs to do a better job of like allowing students to have options. I definitely think that there is a lot of push for college. And that's what leads people to say, don't be invested. Like it's, it's not worth it because they push this college narrative. Now you're thousands of dollars in loans and you're not doing what you need to do. So it kind of develops this very like strong antagonistic relationship with college. I think if they say, look, you can go to college, that's one option. You could go to a trade school. You could join the army. You could do this. You could do that. When they allow it to be an option and allow kids to kind of like figure out what path they want to do, I think then it would be a little better. I think right now, the reason why people are talking in such absolute is because that's the only narrative that is pushed. Okay. And so people kind of like feel confined, like, okay, I may not really feel like it's for me, but I gotta go because everybody's telling me that I gotta go kind of thing. But like, I think right now we are doing a better job of like keeping the options open.
Yeah.
I think back in our day, it was like, no, you need to go to college. Like, you know what I mean? But I definitely think it's worth it. I 100% I'm a gung-ho, go to college, go get a higher education, get a degree. I think it's also about how you market yourself as well, right? Like with the degree that you have, I think sometimes people are like, yeah, I have a degree, like, so I'm able to do this and that, third. I'm like, no, like you still have to do the work to like market yourself. In every way, shape or form, we have to market ourselves. When we are applying for a job, your resume is you marketing yourself, right? Like if you wanted to get a gig somewhere, if you wanted to do something, like you have to market yourself. Like everything about the society is marketing yourself. So I just add like a college degree as another accolade for you to help you market yourself. But you also have to learn how to do that kind of thing.
Here's what I'll say. I think that college is distasteful to a lot of people currently because a lot of people did not know what they wanted to do with their lives.
That's true.
And they went to schools for their friends, for a party, for location, to get away from home. They racked up debt and they're not in a job that reflected what they went to school for.
Yep.
And they're regretful of it because they did not know the path in which they wanted to go in life. And now they're spewing this rhetoric.
That's why I say it's dangerous.
And also, to speak on trades and stuff like that, I think that trade schools and other routes are not marketed to the youth coming out of high school because... So like the boomer generation were trade people. The millennial people were like the dying tail end of trade, push straight college, right? And that's because we have made it uncool, unpopular, and unnecessary to have certain trades.
Absolutely.
You don't walk around hearing people say, I'm a plumber.
Absolutely. I agree
I'm an
with
electrician.
You. And they make bread.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm whatever because it's not popular. It's not necessary anymore because everybody has, again, access to YouTube. I could do it myself. YouTube University. Or like, oh, I rather just call somebody because that's too lowly. I rather pay somebody to do it, not knowing that you're making somebody rich off of that.
Exactly.
Cool. Right? It's not fancy. It's not the thing that you want to tell your friends that you are.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're not just chasing money, we're chasing status now, right? So what I would say is I'm all for college, but again, I'm also one of the people that was strategizing, knew exactly what I wanted out of college, right?
That's the thing.
So I think everything serves a purpose. When it comes to college, I think we can do a better job in high school in educating students about going to what colleges to go to, what to get out of those colleges, you know, how to transfer or whatever it is that you need, how to get all of the ways to go to college for free, right? All, you know what I mean? Like how to get all these scholarships and, you know, utilize the government for what it's supposed to do, which is help you. And also learning what every single major is. We don't have courses on majors when you're in high school to know, hey, here's the major, here are all the jobs attached to those majors. Nobody knows what they're going to college for. They're just going there, they're changing majors over and over again, never graduating, and they're like lost in life because nobody gave them that direction at all. And I think that's what the distaste comes from when it comes to college. But a lot of people who actually knew better or figured out the game essentially, because a lot of us kind of learn on this, you know,
exactly 100%.
Figured out the game. I'm not somebody that does math. I'm not somebody that wanted to go to school long term, so that canceled out anything medical. You know what I mean? How I knew I wanted to work with people. I knew I can work with people. I knew I wanted something that could help me to work anywhere at any time. And I thought psychology would have been it, but then I realized I did my research and I was like, oh, I can't get a job unless I go all the way. Don't want to be there for that long. So underneath that umbrella, I did social work, which means you can work with anyone, anywhere, at any time, and you don't have to do math. That's for me.
And I think it's so important. We also got to think about like how family plays a role in that too. Because as an immigrant family, like I went to college. I initially wanted to be a doctor.
Because you know we have the doctor, lawyer, engineer.
You know what I'm saying? You had to go for doctor, lawyer, engineer, and finance. You know what I'm saying? They're like the big five that you need to go to. So I went to college. And I was like, I want to be a doctor. Then I realized I hate seeing blood. There's absolutely no way.
Figure it out quickly.
There is no way that I'm going to be a doctor at all. And that was a very tough conversation to have with my parents, right? Like immigrant family, Nigerian household, like, you know, you had to be a medical doctor.
And you got to be the top of your class.
You know what I mean? So it was
you
like,
have A, why you don't have A+.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why are you not the best, right? Does this person have 2 heads? They're able to, you know what I mean? It's like things like that.
Why
like,
you need 4 years? Graduate in 3.
You know what I mean? So it's like you also are dealing with like some of the
pressures.
Yeah, that also kind of leads people to hate it because they're not really hating the college itself. I think they're hating everything that is being pushed on them, right? I think that's really what causes people to like have a very like strong distaste for college, and then the cost is just through the roof. And I always tell people, I'm like, look, it is not bad to like go to like your local like state university or your city college, especially for your undergrad degree. Why are you dropping $60,000-$70,000 in loans, right, to get a bachelor's degree? Like that is insane. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing wrong with going to, if you're in New York, going to City University of New York, CUNY schools or SUNY schools. Like people are like, I don't want to
going to school for your friends.
I don't want to be home. I mean, I didn't want to be home, but like I also was like I kind of wanted to stay close to the city too. So I went to school like 4 hours away from here, where I was like, my parents can't drive 4 hours. I'm not just gonna willingly drive 4 hours to.
But you're not too far.
But I'm not too far in that. Like if I want to come home for the weekend because I don't want to be in Ithaca, like I could do that too. You know what I mean?
It's like you don't have to go in debt figuring out life. Figure out life, then go to school.
Exactly.
But also the other thing is also, I think within that course in high school, learning about all of the majors, what jobs you can have with the majors, and how to make college work for you. I think there also needs to be a course in terms of learning about networking, life management, and how to get the utilization out of college.
Do you want to put on the school, and how much of that do you want to put on the person?
No, it's not necessarily just school. The reason why I say that is because, again, we're talking about immigrants, we're talking about families, we're talking about all that stuff. It is helpful, like because by the time you're a senior in high school, you're finished with most of your classes, right? You have a lot of free time. I'm saying within that, where they're telling you, when they're giving you those booklets, because there was essentially like a period that you had to get all the booklets and follow all this information. I think within that should be that education where they have like, even if it's just a list, like you can look up yourself. We did not have that, is what I'm trying to say. And that would be helpful. And when I'm talking about in terms of life management and networking, being a tool for college. I'm talking about in terms of like you joined a fraternity. That is a network that helps 100%. You propel in your 100%. Success, right? Yeah. Or in terms of like, if you are going to college for certain things, networking within your department or your major about what it is that you're trying to gain.
Yeah. So I was just saying, like, I think sometimes a part of me feels like it's selfish because if you're coming from a privileged standpoint, telling people, hey, with somebody with a degree that, which I've heard, like, don't go to college, your college is, is a waste of time. I think that's a little selfish because, like, again, everyone's story, everyone's sort of like path is different even within the college space. So
yeah,
it it may have not been for you. And that's what you could say, like, hey, it wasn't for me. I'm not knocking you from going, but like it just wasn't for me. Like, I want you to make, the best out of it. I think that's different rhetoric than saying don't go to college. Like,
and not ending the sentence there, but saying like, here's what I learned.
Here's what I learned.
Because pass that information down. What did you not like? What did not work for you? So that somebody else can know, oh, yikes, maybe I shouldn't. Or like, oh, I could still go because that has nothing to do with me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree.
Come on now. Each one teach one.
Right.
All right. Well, we just talked about a little bit of everything.
Absolutely.
We've talked about a lot.
A whole lot.
A
lot of strong statements.
Wow. And as much as we've talked about everything that is going wrong and we talk about some of the things that are going right, to cap it all off, as an educator, we're going to end it sweet and lovely. What are the top 3 things that you love about being an educator?
Yeah.
I absolutely love this idea of investing in the young people. Now, some people like believe that, some people invest in property, they invest in, whatever the case may be. Like, I think there's so much power in investing in, I think of schooling, education, teaching as investing in tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And so this idea that you're able to like affect the landscape of this person's future, like the way this person sees the world, like everyone is always going to remember like their favorite teacher, or they're always going to remember that one teacher that like had an impact on them. It is such a pivotal role, and I think to play that role in a student's life is so powerful. I have students who are like, yo, Mr. Kyoto, I'm majoring in biology because of you. Or I want to be a part of Omega Psi Phi because you was a part of Omega, you're a part of Omega Psi Phi, right? Like, or like this idea of like, you're inspiring the future of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And like, sometimes I don't even do anything. I'm just me. You know what I mean? And they just like see that and they cling on to like, yo, my teacher's actually pretty dope. Yeah, I'm tooting my own horn. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
as you should.
Right? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Educators
Like,
stand up.
Right? Like, they're like, yo, my teacher is actually pretty dope, and I think one of the things that helps is like, I'm also I'm young, and me and my students, we're not that much different in terms of what we like. Like, we still listen to the same music, right? They're asking, oh, hey, Mr. Kyoto, what's your favorite Pop Smoke song? And I'm like, yeah, it's 4-4 Bulldog, that's my song. You know what I mean? Like, and we're able to relate on so many different levels. So I think that allows me to kind of see them past being students because they are so relatable, right?
Yeah.
Especially as a high school teacher, right? Like, we're able to have all of these very real, in-depth conversations. They're able to understand things that I'm talking about. I'm able to laugh with them, joke with them. I allow them to see me as a person. And so they just don't see me as like the teacher. They also see me as like Clinton, the human being. Like, this is who my teacher really is, type shit. So I definitely think that that's another thing that I really enjoy. And I just love like working with kids. Like, they bring a certain like, first of all, you have to have a lot of patience. And I have grown in my patience over the last God knows how many years.
Educators are God's gift to this earth.
Like, this idea of really just working with kids, empowering kids, believing in kids, making kids believe in themselves, right? Like, showing them like that they could reach their full potential when they like apply themselves, like teaching them the soft skills is absolutely beautiful. I tell my kids, like, I don't tell them this, but like I tell them at the end of the year, like, look, I don't care like if you don't remember at the end of this class that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Like, you're gonna forget that, right?
I just remembered that right now.
Right? You know what I mean? Like,
that's one thing I remember.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Right? You know what I mean? Like,
I remember the name mitochondria. I don't remember what that is about.
But like, I think it's one of those things. Like, I don't care. You're not gonna remember the facts, right?
Yeah.
You're just not gonna remember the facts. What you are gonna learn is those like soft skills, right? Those lessons, those conversations that you had. I had a kid. She sent me a heartwarming email, and like, to this day, I'll always remember it. Like, she said, back in my freshman year, you were the only teacher. I was having a bad day, or you noticed something that was going on with me, and you like checked in, and you were like, yo, like, what's going on with you? Like, what's going on? I'm noticing this. And he was like, you were the only teacher that peeped that. And in my head, I was just doing a regular check-in. Like, I was just like, yo, you good?
But you
Like,
showed care
I
and
peeped,
intention.
you know what I mean? I noticed, and I actually brought it up to her, and she was like, ever since then, like, that definitely stuck with me. So I'm asking to, for you to write me my letter of recommendation to college. I want to major in science just like you, like everything like you. I want a letter from you specifically.
Without knowing the impact that you
without knowing
made,
the impact. And that made me like think. And at the end of the year, like, I get a ton of emails from parents like, thank you so much. My son looks up to you. My daughter looks up to you. They want to be like you, all of these things. I don't know if you know the impact that you have. And I'm like, thank you. I'm just really doing my job.
I'm doing my job, man.
Yeah, I'm saying, but like, thank you. But that's because, like you said, like teaching is a calling.
Yes,
you have to give your heart and soul into it. You know what I mean? Like, and like kids are gonna see that, like, you care about them, and you not, just care about what they learn, but you care about them as people. Yeah. So like, it's an empowering profession. I don't see myself working in any other capacity other than being in the classroom with students. Like, that's something I feel like God called me to do, and that is reaffirmed. I love that. That is reaffirmed every single day that I'm in the classroom. Like, I don't go home. Yeah, I'll be tired. I'll be like, yo, what's good with these kids? But like, you know what I mean? But in the long run, like, I'm like, yo, now, like, I'm in the right spot. Like, this feels right. This feels like it's me. I am not changing myself. I'm not, transforming myself into somebody different. Like, I'm really just being me and bringing me into this space. So I think there's a lot of power into it. So if anybody's watching this and you want to go into teaching, please do. We need teachers.
If you build for it.
They need help.
If you're built for it.
You got
if you called for it.
If you're called.
And you gotta like kids.
You got to like children.
You gotta like kids. You gotta like working with kids.
Yeah, because you might not. You get fired.
Teachers, I used to say that. I used to be like, what does that even mean? I'm a grown up now.
That's good, man. Wow. Once again, man, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all for having me. This was
a very insightful conversation. Like, this
is gonna before we end off, can we do one cute thing?
What?
I'm sorry, one cute thing. Can we each talk about what, like, in like one sentence? Keep it short. One sentence. What is your most favorite memory about school that you were in when you were in school? Your most favorite memory in like a sentence. I just thought about that. I was like, we have to say that because I know exactly what mine is.
I got two.
I know what mine is. If you guys are not ready, you want me to share mine?
Go ahead.
Okay, my favorite memory of all time is either after you've read a book, or if it was like a rainy day, a calm day, or whatever it was, or if it was a treat, different teachers, different flows, when you used to hear that wheeling of the TV coming into your classroom because you were about to have a movie night, and you turned off all the lights, and you was sitting closest to your friends, and you got to watch a movie at school. Absolutely. That is my favorite. Cool. And for me, the movies that I always loved was the ones that came from a book. And you just talked about like your favorite teacher you always remember. I remember in middle school, my favorite teacher was Miss Joni, and she was our English teacher, and every time we read a book, she had the movie that went along with it, and that was like my favorite thing of all time.
Oh my God, that's dope.
Yeah,
that's dope.
What's y'all's?
So it's not really like one experience, but I think it's just how I felt in the long run. Like, so when I moved to this country, I knew nothing about like the American system. I moved into 5th grade. Like, this was not, what I'm saying, I didn't have no American accent, like, and I had a Jamaican teacher who always was like my second mom. Like, and I think that's the reason why I became a teacher today, is because her name was Miss Rose, and I want to be a Miss Rose for my kids. And just kind of like how she kind of made me feel in a place where I was like, I felt new. My parents were freaking out because it was a new country, new style, new teaching, everything. But like, I remember this one time, like, she invited me to like her son's, like, she was my teacher, so I was like, I'm supposed to be doing this. She invited me to like her son's like birthday party or something like that. But it was like, so I could like make friends and like see people and be, you know what I mean? So she really, again, that's what I mean by like not just teaching the student, like she saw me as a human being.
Being intentional and
being
caring.
intentional and really caring. So I think I always give thanks to her wherever she is. I don't know where she's at, but like, like I always give thanks to her because, those little things definitely did like positively impact me even, God knows, 17 years like later. You know what I mean? So
that's beautiful. Shout out to Miss Rose.
Yeah.
All right. Caleb, what's yours?
Oh man, I have too many, man. High school was okay. I'll just give one. My favorite memory ever was with, well, it's not really a specific teacher. It was just those days when it was really slow, and you finished all your work and you got to go on the computer for the rest of the period. Those were the times when you had to hit Zootopia, cool math games.
Zootopia.
You know what I'm saying? And those moments will be forever ingrained in my head because we really used to sit in the back, me and my boys.
Computer games,
you know what I'm saying? Computer games, just it was good times. It was good. That's when it was a privilege to use
to
that,
be
like,
on the computer. Good times.
Good times.
School,
they don't make them like that no more.
School can be fun.
School can be fun.
It can.
Educators can be great.
Oh, can I get football? I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
No, oh my
go
goodness,
ahead.
I forgot her name, but it was my English teacher in 9th grade. She the one that actually introduced me to the whole anime scene. She started a whole anime club after. Shout out, I forgot her name, but that was you know what it was.
She turned you to an anime nerd.
She turned me to an anime nerd.
Yeah,
yeah. But school is fun. Well, school can be fun. School can be fun. You know,
we just need the right educators and moments, and that's it, to cultivate the minds of the youth, because they are the future.
Yes, indeed, man. Anyways, once again, Q, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you. This was great.
Mr. Clinton, thank you for stopping by.
I appreciate you.
I hope you guys really took a lot from this conversation. Of course, if you have any more questions, topics, drop them down in the comments down below. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe with the bell on so you can get a video every time we drop. And we came back stunting. We came back hot.
Yeah, see y'all on the next episode.
Yeah.